Yo, welcome to the Fresh Digital Podcast where we keep it fresh. I'm your host, Coach Taylor J, and I'm excited about today's conversation because it's going to cause you to really just go back and do a reflection over the last decade of your life just to see what you've been up to and how far you have grown, right? So many of you all are showing up in digital spaces. You're excited about it, right? You're promoting your books, your conferences, your events, your master classes, or maybe you're just an artist and you like to just share like nice things, right? Well, this podcast is going to really take you down memory lane, y'all. So over the last couple days, I have really been taking out time to just do a major reflection over like my growth, right? In these digital spaces. So I literally went back and reviewed and really studied my own self over the last 10 years. And to my surprise, y'all, I just want to say I'm proud of me, right? And I know that sometimes when you go back and you look at your own content and you're listening to your voice and you're looking at, how you used to dress and things like that, sometimes it can get a little cringy, right? Because it's like, oh, why did I sound like that? Or why did I say that? But I really went in to just see how much I've grown, right? And I was just so excited about it. I was just really proud of myself. So a few things that I realized is that, one, I've grown tremendously, right? My content has elevated, the way that I deliver. My posture is more mature. Like everything about my content from 10 years ago up until now has just truly grown. And that really gave me confidence like now, because sometimes you can, be producing things and stepping out and you feel like not confident because you feel like, yo, am I perfect enough? Am I showing up the right way? Am I really making an impact? But then when you really look over the course of your life and you see how much you've grown, man, it just builds up another type of confidence in you. And so you're like, man, you know what? I got this, right? Number two, seeing my own growth really boosted my confidence. Like I was saying, like I'm competing with who I was yesterday, right? And if I can get better and better each day, like I know that in the next 10 years, I'm gonna be cold. Like you gotta look at yourself that way. You have to look at your craft in that way. If I'm diligently stepping out and working on me and just trying to beat who I was yesterday and just, taking my skill set to the next level, and I'm taking these courses and I'm taking these classes and I'm not letting up, right? Eventually you're going to see growth. You're going to hit the mark. And so for anybody that feel like you ready to quit, like don't stop, because think about how far along you can be within just like the next few years, right? And so like, as I was going back, I was like listening to myself and I'm like, whoa, some of my content was really, really good. And even in those moments, I remember feeling nervous, right? I remember re-recording the videos over and over again, trying to make it, become perfect. But I didn't realize how much my weight and my voice, how much weight it really carried until I really went back and just did a reflection over everything. And I'm like, even looking at my content, like looking at the comments, people were blessed by it. I'm looking at my view count, meaning it got major reach, right? And I think that sometimes we can be extremely hard on ourselves, but the whole time you killing it, right? The whole time you showing up and you making a major impact. And from the outside looking in, people see this confidence, they see this boldness, but on the inside, like you are like screaming like, oh my God, am I really making an impact? Am I really, stepping out and bringing value, right? Like that's ultimately what it's about. Like, am I really delivering value? Because I don't know about you all, but I don't want to be, clanging cymbals. That's just not what we own. And so one thing that I'm a firm believer in is that quantity eventually turns into quality over time. And I know that, we should give our best in anything that we do. But, as you're growing, you have to know that you're giving your all, you just leveling up, as it pertains to your skill set. Each time you step out and do something. I'll never forget when I first started doing graphic design, y'all, I sucked. Like I look back over some of my work now and I'm like, man, I was so confident. Like one, I had people around me who were literally cheering me on. Okay. Like, they were like, man, you're doing a phenomenal job, even though I suck. So I thank God for that. So get around people who are excited about what you have to offer, who are excited about, the things that you're pursuing. And over time, as you begin to just continue to work on that craft, you're going to begin to see growth, right? You're going to see an increase in value, right? You're going to become more polished. And so, just looking back, I'm like, man, some of my colors weren't right. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was excited to be stepping out in the realm of graphic design. And now that I look at like my work now, I'm like, man, I'm so much more polished. I understand Photoshop a lot more. I recognize and know what it is, like what resources I have available to me just to take my gift to the next level, right? And so imagine if I would have quit, right? Like if I would have just stopped doing it, if I would have pumped out 2-3 graphics, and felt like I sucked, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today doing some of the things that I'm doing, right? And I remember even charging like $25 for a graphic, and I was afraid to even charge people that amount. Now I'm busting down $1,000 like invoices. I'm like, if they don't pay it, then the work just don't get done, because I've grown in my skill set and I know my value. I know what I bring to the table now. And when this becomes your profession, it's like, okay, this is just what we do. And when you realize that there are people that are willing, right, to buy into what you have to offer because you're that good. And y'all, I don't even think I'm that dope. Like, I still feel like it's still more levels for me. I'm still growing. I'm excited about that. But when you realize that there are people that will pay for what you have to offer, and you've done all the work behind it, you won't mind sending an invoice, right? And you won't be afraid to, because you know your worth, right? Another thing, you must have a method to track your progress. Like, how would you ever know how amazing you've become over the years if you never measure yourself, right? So one method I use to just measure and track myself is I go back and look through all of my content. What worked? What didn't work? How can I show up more polished? Is my lighting good? Things like that. Like, just go back and do an evaluation, and then also place yourself in spaces that are elevated, right? If I'm the smartest one in the room, or if I'm the dopest one in the room, I'm in the wrong room, right? I want to get into atmospheres that are going to stretch me, take me to another level. And once you see things done on an elevated level, like above what you're currently producing on, oh, it ain't no coming back from that. You can't unsee that, right? And so I was constantly in environments and in atmospheres that really it showed me something else, right? Bigger scales, just systems, everything. I was amongst people that worked on a totally different level. And it challenged me, right, to come up. And so as a result, like, I just began doing things on another level and becoming more polished. And so I thank God for that. And you got to know that you are amazing, right? Sometimes you just really need to sit back and reflect so that you can see your value, right? Think about, where you started and how you're producing now. Think about the rooms that you're able to sit in on today. Think about the clients that you've now accumulated versus, back then. I remember I was severely overworked and underpaid when I first started my business, because one, I didn't have a skill set. I wasn't charging enough, right, for my time. It took me longer to produce things because I was not familiar with the systems. I was still learning. I was still growing. But over time, I became more skilled at systems, right? I learned more efficient ways to produce things on a quicker scale, right? And so as a result, because I'm now working at a faster rate, because I now have more quality, I'm delivering more value, and I'm saving myself time, and then I'm able to charge more because of my skill set. Now, I have a particular set of clients that I'm pleased with, right? I'm pleased with them. I don't feel extremely stressed and overworked. I feel like I could be myself. I could be extremely creative. They trust my skill set. They trust my visual eye, right? They trust the way that I brand and how I market and the way that I communicate. They trust me. And so now I'm able to enter into these creative spaces and just do what I do. I remember just even working at a job and feeling very restricted because it was very task oriented, right? There was really no room for creativity at all. I just had to, check these things off the to-do list and get these things done, and then that was it. And just growing up, I've always been extremely creative, and I think that maybe you may be able to identify with this as well. But when you are extremely creative and you're now placed in a box, you just be bursting at the seams. You just feel unhappy. You kind of feel weighed down. And that's because you don't have the ability to just be you, to just be creative, to just flow, in your mantle. And so that's one of the things that I absolutely love about creative spaces and being a content creator, and just working on all these different projects. I really get an opportunity to be creative. And so, take these steps, take these strategies, apply them to your life, apply them to your businesses as you produce and create content. And I promise you that when you go back down memory lane, you're going to look back over your life, over your content. You're going to be extremely proud of you. So listen, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Follow me on all social media sites up under Coach Taylor J or Taylor J. And I cannot wait to hang out with you again right here at the Fresh Digital Podcast. Peace.